Welcome everybody to God's Alliance. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be fun. I'm so excited to hear the presentation today. A little bit about our sponsor, Improving sponsors the rooms, sponsors pizzas, sponsors drinks. We are in the Improving office. Improving focuses on development, consulting, outsourcing, training, and community. And part of it is community groups and this part. Improving offers space for user groups. There's other user groups than just Goals Alliance that meet in the office. There's a list of them, but there's more available on the website. Also, Improving offers training possibilities. If you go on our website under the services, training solutions, you will find upcoming classes. There's online and in-person opportunities, Scrum, Kanban, there's other options as well. They are often run in this office actually, so they're very, very conveniently located. Who we are Goals Alliance. Our motto is design your future and live with purpose. As a community, we focus on commitment to personal growth and achieving our goals for a better future. We want to build a better future for ourselves, for our families, and that's why we're focusing on our goals and our growth. Our mission is, first of all, knowledge sharing, skill development. That's why I bring and work with different speakers to make sure that we cover different topics. Growth, making sure that we all get something new from each and every presentation and that we all grow. Support, making sure that we support each other, but also if you need support from any other sources, let us know. That's what we're here for. We're going to help you to make sure we find it. And accountability. Today's topic is going to be about accountability. So if you feel like you are looking for an accountability partner and you don't know where to find somebody who is going to support your goals or who can help you with your goals, let me know. There is definitely different options for us to find accountability partners for everybody. A little bit of house rules. Please be respectful to each other. Join when you can and leave when you need to. So if you have to leave earlier, that's okay. Experimentation, we like to try new things. And in that area, I would like to mention that if you have a topic you would like to learn more about, but don't have time to sit down and actually research it, or you need help to analyze it, or you need help to work with somebody to get a better understanding of it, or there's a book you wanted to read, but you don't have time to read it. We have lots of people in the office that are book-oriented or that are knowledge-oriented. Just let me know, and I'll make sure that I find somebody that will help us with that topic and that will help us in that area. If I cannot, then there is definitely somebody in the office who can. And we don't sell products or services here. We're just here to learn and have fun together. And our current presentation is going to be by Danyal about prioritization, tracking, and accountability. The next month, we're going to talk about short-term goals, real results. So we're going to cover a little bit of habits, a little bit of different methodologies that will cover short-term goals. So if you're interested, QR code for the next meeting or find it on our Goals Alliance LinkedIn page. I'm going to hand it over to you, Don.
But everyone should have a piece of paper. We're going to use that. Feel free to take notes, but also keep in mind the purpose of this session is that you can take one goal that you're focused on right now, and you walk away with specific strategies that you can use today to work on your prioritization, tracking your progress, and also finding someone that can keep you accountable, or how to be better accountable so you make progress towards your goals. So a little bit about me. I was going to replace these photos with something that showed more than me talking, but this was placeholder, and now you guys have to live with it. But a little bit about me. You guys know I work at Improving. I'm a software developer. I've been at Improving now almost 4 years, which is crazy because I've never worked anywhere longer than 2 years. I've always quit at the 2-year mark. I just get fed up. I'm like, I hate this place. But not Improving. I've been a software developer for about 10 years now. And I started back in college. I actually went to school for accounting at U of H. And I realized one semester in, wow, I cannot be an accountant. I am going to hate my life. Sorry to any of the accountants in the room, but that was just not for me. And so in college, I actually started a business. And I used my FAFSA money to fund the business, which of course, that's what every good student should do that. And so the business actually got pretty profitable and actually paid for my tuition for about a year. But that's how I started dabbling into software development. I had hired someone to build out my website because I was not very tech savvy at all. I used to type with 2 fingers. That's where I was when I was like 19. And from there I was like, oh, well, if I need to start a business, I should just learn how to do this all myself. I can't afford to pay someone to build a website for me every time. And so from there, I shut down that business and I started learning how to code. I got a job at a startup, just got lucky. And I've been working as a developer ever since. And I've had small side projects. I've started a few businesses on the side. Side Project Society, I consider that my side project / business. Although it doesn't make any money, so it's a really bad business if you think about it. Yeah, let's see. I've always been fascinated with entrepreneurship, technology, community, stuff like that. And so I think of goals and personal development as an extension of that. Or I think of entrepreneurship, software development, as an extension of personal development. So it's not just a career, I think about it as a way to improve. So with that, we're just gonna jump straight into the first section and I'll share a little bit more details as we go along. So we're gonna start with prioritizing your goals, and why is it important? So the very first thing we're gonna do is, at the last session, if you weren't able to attend, we talked about the life book and sort of creating your goals or writing out what you want your life to look like 5, 10, 20 years from now. So what we want to focus on now is at the top of your paper, write down one goal that you're serious about right now, something that you're working towards. And you don't have to share it, it's just for you as we go through this exercise, but something that you're really excited about, that you've already made plans to work on. Just write that down at the top. Try to be as specific as you can. Yeah. Cool. We'll give it another few seconds. Anyone need more time? All right, cool. Everyone should know at least. That's why you're here, right? Unless you're looking for a goal, then you should take a time machine back to the first meeting. Cool, so everyone should have one goal, and we're gonna keep this goal in mind as we go through the rest of these slides, through this workshop, through these exercises. So going back to prioritization, it's important to know that the essence of it is that you need to accept that you can't do everything. You have to choose, right? Our time is limited. Eventually we die, and that's where prioritization comes from. We can't do everything we want. We have to pick and choose. There's an opportunity cost to every single action that we take, every decision that we make. So this applies to both, goals that we're working on across the entirety of our lives, and also to specific tasks that we choose to take on in those goals, right? How we break it down, what we choose to start on, what we focus on. So that's the core of what prioritization is all about. And without proper prioritization, you obviously can't get where you need to go. Lots of times, has anyone ever felt overwhelmed? They have too many things that they need to work on. That's usually from lack of priority, because the truth is, we all think we're super busy, but as soon as an emergency pops up, we make time for that, right? It's called priority, right? If you're too busy to hang out with your friends or work towards your goals, but then all of a sudden a water pipe bursts in your house, all of a sudden you're gonna find time to fix that. It's just how things work. And so that's sort of how I think about priority. Like, yes, we can't do everything, but we can always shift things around based on how urgent they are. I don't know if I tried to do some research. I couldn't find anything. So this may just be my opinion. Well, all of this is my opinion, by the way. But I think about prioritization at two different levels, the macro and micro. At macro level is more about prioritizing your goals across all of your commitments, right? Your goals aren't just standalone things that you go to work and then you do your goals. Like, we have other responsibilities, other commitments. And I think that's one of the issues that I've struggled with in the past. I set like, oh, I'm gonna have these 3 to 5 goals, and then I completely forget all the other stuff I already have on my plate, and all the relationships, all the work commitments, all the other stuff I say yes to, I forget about it. And what happens is those sort of cannibalize and eat at the time that I would use for the goals I really want to focus on. So macro is all about seeing your life from like a bird's eye view and seeing like where you're spending your time, where your goals fit in alongside all your other commitments. And then micro, at the micro level, it's more about prioritizing effectively within your specific goal, right? If you want to start a business, for example, there's a million different things you could do today to get started. But not all of those things are actually going to get you where you want to go. There's a lot of busy work involved, as all there, I'm sure you know, right? There's so much. It's about picking the right things to focus on. Of course, those concepts apply to many different areas, but that's how I think about it in my head, macro and micro. And we'll go into a little bit more detail here. So macro prioritization, again, your goals don't exist within a vacuum. So the way I do my goal setting is I do quarterly goals. At the beginning of the year, I said from January 1st to beginning of April, I'm gonna commit to these 3 to 5 goals. And I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. I recently did a reflection on the first quarter, and I did not get where I wanted. I did make good progress, but it wasn't to the finish line like I expected to. And it was because I overcommitted. I was like, but it was only 4 goals, only 5 goals. It's not even that much. I can count them on my fingers. But I forgot. I had so much other crap that was already on my plate. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a few minutes to list out all of your current commitments, not just your goals. If you did the life book last time, that's a good place to start. But think about your work, your job, your family. Are you in a relationship? Do you have a pet? Right, that's a commitment too. Do you do any volunteer work? Are you trying to exercise? Any new hobbies you're trying to pick up? And it could be your goals are part of that too, but these are all commitments that eat up at the time that we could spend on our goals. So it's important to list it all out.
Should we focus on commitments that take our time or just any?
I think any. I think that works. Obviously, we want to think about it from how much time they take up, but also mental commitments, things that you think about regularly, still take up space. Right? You need mental energy to focus on your goals too. I figured I should probably do this alongside you guys. Do we need any more time? And we just need enough to get started. So do you guys want to share a few? What are some of the commitments that you think are, that you didn't realize? Is there anything that you didn't think about initially that as you wrote it down, you realized, oh, that's in the way? Agnes?
I dance.
Okay.
I like dancing, but sometimes it gets in the way.
Okay.
Like yesterday, I had to take care of my kids and I couldn't do dancing, and I was being part of myself.
Mm. How many hours a week would you say dancing takes up?
If I had my say, 7 days. Right now, it's just 1 day.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
think maybe 2.
Okay. For me, it's being a homeowner. It's something I didn't think about when I got my house, is it takes up a lot of time and space. It's always something broken. It's an old house too. It's like from 1970. Always something broken. HOA is always yelling at me for something. And I'm really bad at fixing stuff on time. If I don't want to do something, I drag my feet. I'm so bad at it. They've been begging to me to fix my outdoor, like we have like those gas lamps, and I hate them. They don't even provide any light. You can't see anything. So I'm like, why should I fix it? Anyways, they're gonna find me probably. But I'm living with that decision. But you know, home ownership, it's something that gets in the way because I have to dedicate time for that, but it's usually unexpected, right? HOA sends me a notice, oh, I need to go hire a plumber, or pipe burst, happened to me a few months back. You know, little things here and there that really add up. So those are some of those invisible commitments that you don't really think about, that can take up a lot of time and space. And it's important to have them listed out so you know when you're committing to your goals, how the landscape looks. You know, again, your goals are not within a vacuum. You have to balance them with the rest of your life. And that includes also like your mental health and your well-being, right? You have to exercise, you have to sleep, you have to eat well. Those things can take time. And if you're just saying, oh, I just want to start this business, or I just want to run this marathon, or whatever it is that you want to do, you're setting yourself up for failure, like I did. Because I did this very recently. I just completely ignored everything else I had. And, oh, 5 goals, I can do that really easily. I could not. So, follow-up question to that, how did your goals fit alongside your other commitments? Did you guys notice, did they match well, or was there some sort of contrast?
They don't fit, period.
They don't fit?
In my life.
That's not good.
I don't have time to be a homeowner.
Yeah,
To sleep or to cook either.
yeah. So obviously
I
everyone,
don't even have TV.
that's,
I don't have time to
that might be a good thing.
yeah.
So Alder, you mentioned that it didn't seem like they fit. What's an example of that?
No, I mean, I am also doing my master's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in
Oh,
that just takes a lot of time. So
yeah.
very, and also I have a full-time job, so
So you're working, you're going to school for your master's, and you're starting a business. Yeah, and you all on top of that, you have to take care of yourself and exercise.
home, yeah, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. People, obviously, when we start off on our goals, everyone's really excited and energized. But it's very important to understand you can't bite off more than, you shouldn't bite off more than you can chew. Because that's how you get demotivated, and then you start this negative self-talk, I can't even accomplish my goals. And really, we're just all human, which is we have a blind spot for all this everyday, lesser important stuff that we have to do every day. And so it's important before we really commit to our goals and we start deciding what to do when, we understand like we're not just here to work on our goals. We have jobs, we have other commitments, other responsibilities. So there are, luckily for you guys, some useful techniques that we can use to sort of, one, become more aware of these things and also find time to make balance in our lives. We talked about this at the last meeting a little bit, but balance is very important. I know we hear about like all the startup culture, like we got to work 100 hours a week. If you want to start your business, you got to commit 110%. I think that's absolute BS. That's my personal take. It's never worked for me. And the people that I see that it has worked for them, I don't want to be like them. They seem like I wouldn't want to spend time with them, right? Like sacrificing relationships, family time, They're really one-dimensional people. And I think that's something we should try to avoid. That's my personal opinion. If you guys feel strongly about that, that's perfectly fine too.
I like it when people say, oh, I work 100 hours a week for my family. Well, your family doesn't even see you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yes.
Yeah, they're doing it for themselves. That's what it comes down to. So this is actually one of my favorite techniques. Has anyone heard of this? Hell yeah or no?
Well, I've heard if it's not in hell yes, it's like, oh no.
Exactly. So there's this entrepreneur and author. His name is Derek Sivers. And he actually had a book with the same title, Hell Yeah or No. If you Google this, you'll find him. But it's this entire philosophy of if a new opportunity comes up and someone's like, hey, do you want to start this business with me? Or do you want to meet up for coffee or whatever? If your answer is not hell yeah, then you should default to no. Because the more commitments you have, the more these invisible commitments pile up, and it eats into time that you would want to spend on your goals. But I have a problem with it. I say yes to a lot of things. To too much, because of course I'm optimistic. I think, yeah, I can do that for sure. How long will that take? 30 minutes? Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. So hell yeah or no is a great technique. It's not really super complicated. Right when someone approaches you with some decision, just think, are you hell yeah excited or not? It's a binary decision. And if you say no, you say, no, sorry, it's not for me. Maybe later. And so I use this one all the time. It's more of a gut feeling. If you want to buy yourself more time, but hey, I need to think about it, and then still reflecting on this, hell yeah or no, it works really well. So I found it to be very useful. So that's more about making sure you're not overcommitting. Next one is the Eisenhower matrix. Has anyone heard of this one? So I got one over here. Actually, I got a graphic over here. So this is what it looks like over here. It's basically a quadrant with two axes. It goes vertically with importance and then horizontally with urgency. And so what you can do is you can take all the different commitments you have and you basically place them in the different quadrants based on their importance and their urgency. So if something is really important and really urgent, right, like maybe there's a fire at work, right? There's something you have to work late for, production issue, the CEO is calling you about it. That's probably in that first super urgent, super important category. And for those, you just want to do it as soon as possible. Get it off your plate. There's really not much time to even think about it. You just want to do it. Another example is like if at home your pipe bursts and water is gushing everywhere, you probably are not going to call around for the best rate on a plumber. You're probably just going to try to find the first one that shows up. So those are like super high priority. You just need to get it done as soon as possible. Then you have tasks that are important but not urgent. So actually, these are the most important tasks for our goals. These are the ones that you need to schedule. For example, like if you're working on a goal, for me, my goal is I want to fix my sleep. Talked about this at the last meeting. It's not particularly urgent. Like if you think, when no one's like, gun to my head and say, hey, you need to fix your sleep right now. It's more of something I want to do. But it's very important because that's important to me. It's my health. I'm trying to prioritize it. But obviously other stuff that's more urgent might get in the way. So with things like that, and other things that fit in that category are like career development or skill development, right? If you're trying to learn a new technology, or if you're trying to read more often, expand your worldview, those are things that are not urgent, but in the long run, they're very important, right? When we talk about our goals, often they're very important because they're important to us, but we don't make time for them, and there's not some sort of deadline necessarily associated with them, which is another reason why you're supposed to have time-bound goals. You want them to be, you don't want to set a goal for 5 years from now and not really worry about it until 4 years from now, right? So lots of our most important work actually ends up in that category, and that's very important that we schedule time for that. Schedule time for it on a regular basis. And then at the bottom is if it's not important and it's not urgent, why are you doing it? But those are typically things that, this is not important and urgent. So those are things that if you can afford to delegate, my new thing I've never been one to delegate. I've never had anyone to delegate to. but I like to just use AI for that. I'm like, oh, it's not that important. It's urgent, I need to do it, but like I'll try to find some shortcut to do it. I try not to spend too much life energy in this bottom left quadrant. And then on the right, there's things that are not important and not urgent, but somehow we find ourselves committed to them. Those, it says just delete them. They're distractions and unnecessary tasks. I know it's not always possible. You can't always just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Although with my HOA, I do that. It does eventually come back to bite me because I have to pay them like $100. But that's more of like a moral point I'm taking right there. But yeah, typically if you realize that something is not important, not urgent, you should try to think about why you're even doing it in the first place. And so this is a really great exercise to take. If you have like a huge to-do list and you have like 20 things on there, try sorting the things out, putting them in the different parts of the quadrant, and you'll start to see what really is important to you and where it stands in terms of urgency. I think you might be surprised. If you've never done it before, it's a great exercise. And then lastly, this is one that I use a lot. This is time blocking and day theming. Day theming, I didn't know there was a name for it. I just made that up. But what I do, I think we do this naturally. I do all my laundry and weekly prep on Sunday. Who else does that? Anyone else do something similar? Try. All right. So it's one of those things where we naturally fall into patterns where we say like, oh, I'm going to hang out with friends on Friday night or Saturday night. Sundays for family. On Monday through Wednesday, those are all work-related events or networking events I'll attend. We naturally do this thing where we do the same things on the same days. I wasn't actually aware of this until recently. I was like looking through some of my old notes. I was like, I do the same thing every day. This is really weird. I have a very set day for doing all my laundry and vacuuming around the house, which I used to think I just did it spontaneously, but it turns out it's not the case at all. I'm just not self-aware. And so I use that along with time blocking. Has anyone heard of time blocking? I think that one's a common one, yeah. So time blocking is all about making time on your calendar for the things that you have to do, right? It's this concept where your to-do list is not good enough because if you don't make a specific commitment on when you're going to do it, it's not going to happen. So what I do is I have my Google Calendar and I literally just block out chunks of time. Like, for example, if I want to work on a long-term project, for example, one of my goals is I want to launch a newsletter. That takes some effort, though. You have to do some research. You have to build content. You have to have things ready. There's a whole bunch of administrative stuff you have to do, even before you get into the meat of the content. And for that, I can't just do it whenever I feel like I have to make time for it. I have to force it. And so that goes into this upper right quadrant of schedule. It's not really urgent, but it's important to me. And so what I do is I go on my calendar and I set a recurring block throughout the week. I think it's every day like 7 to 8 or something, or sometimes more. I adjust it, but I set a recurring calendar event to work on that goal. And actually, I don't do it just for what my goals are. I do it for other commitments. Like if I want to do if I want to focus on household chores, I will literally set a block for 1 hour every other day, just so I get some of that stuff knocked out. It doesn't pile up near the end of the week. Because when I don't do that, Sunday is basically just dedicated to cleaning up, and I hate that. So this is a great way to see. I'm a very visual person, so with your calendar, you can color code it. You can color them different things for different categories, and I can sort of see where I've already committed all my time. I have a to-do list that I look at, and then I compare that to my calendar. I'm like, okay, what needs to go on here that's not already on here? It also helps me see where there's gaps in time, that I have free time. It feels weird when I'm hanging out with my friends, because they're like, hey, when can you hang out? I'm like, let me check my calendar. I literally have to schedule my friends in to hang out. And my family too. It's really, it's the best thing though. It works really well for me. So we're gonna take a few minutes here and we're gonna try to think about when can you find a regular time to work on whatever your goal is. Is it every single day after work, or is it before work, or is it on the weekends? So take a few minutes and write down, I will work on this goal at this time. And I know some of you have already done this as part of last month's session, but it's a good refresher. And also keep in mind the other priorities, the other commitments that you also have. So, you know, if one of your days is spent for family time, obviously you probably don't want to, you know, book over that with time for your goals. Something to keep in mind. Also, does anyone have any questions? I realize I'm talking a lot, but if you guys have any questions, just blurt them out.
I was only concerned about the hell yeah or no. I don't know if you've read the whole book. Have you?
No, I never read the book, no.
I was wondering if it talks about how to like avoid the FOMO and like the missed opportunities. Like often, like the best thing that happened to us is when we don't want to do it and we're like, oh, okay, well,
That's true.
that's fine, let's do it. So I was wondering if the book speaks about that in any way.
I wouldn't know. I just read the headline. No, but so he has a blog too. That's where I originally heard about this concept. I never read his book. He just had, the blog post got so popular, he named his book after it.
Okay.
For me personally, it's just more of a gut feeling. Like, there's definitely times when you need to get out of your comfort zone and do things that you wouldn't normally do. But there's also a time and place for that. I think a lot of the times we need to focus on not overcommitting. And that's where I struggle with. That's where this comes from for me, is I overcommit to a lot of things without realizing what I already have on my plate. And then it all reaches a point where I'm like, why did I say yes to this in the first place? So there's definitely a balance. It's not, you know, black and white. You should always feel super excited about doing everything. Like, you know, the reality is there's going to be things that you should do that you are not excited for.
Like vacuuming.
Like what?
Vacuuming.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I have a great vacuum. It has like a really cool light where you can see all the dirt. So I actually enjoy vacuuming now. So I can't agree with you on that one. Cool. Everyone done? Did you find, as you were doing that, was it easy to find a day to regularly work on it, or was it something you had to think about? It was easy? So are you already working on your stuff at the same time or the same day?
I need a partner.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's why. Okay, no, don't worry. You're all good. That's why we're all here. Yeah. For me, it's one thing to put it on your calendar. The next thing is actually being regular and committing to it, which is a challenge in itself. So I'm with you there.
But I like the reminders. If I put it on a calendar for my phone to remind me, hey, in 30 minutes,
Exactly.
that's what you need to focus on.
Exactly. Oh, one other point I was just going to make is this is something that I ran into, is I wasn't making time to eat. Like, of course, I still eat. I'm not starving myself, but it wasn't on my calendar. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be this productive. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then I was looking at it, I was like, man, there's no time for dinner. So like, you know, you have to account for all these human things that we do. Until we become consumed by AI, we still have to eat food and we still have to sleep and exercise.
There's the prep and the cleaning associated.
Exactly.
with me because I make most of my food at home.
Yeah,
So it's like all this extra stuff, and then so
Yeah.
you have to take it in consideration.
Exactly. And as humans, we're bad at accounting for this time because we don't want to track every single second. And that's important. It's important to at least have some sort of guesstimate, because otherwise you're going to be saying, oh, I'm going to work on this stuff for the next 2 hours. Guess what? An hour into it, you're like, I need to do all this other stuff first. And so I'm a big proponent of avoiding burnout. And if you don't do these things to take care of yourself, your goals don't go anywhere, because even if you're working really hard, if you just stop, it's over, right? It's all about consistency and maintaining momentum. If we lose that, then all of this is for nothing.
Or you will have a feeling you have been working all day or all week and not see any
Exactly.
progress because you
Yeah. And on top of that, we're not machines. Sometimes we just need to take a break. Like today, the weather was really nice, so I went outside. I was supposed to be working, but I went outside for about 30, 40 minutes.
And it's interesting because self-care should be also kind of scheduled these days.
Yeah.
Because you think it's not a productive thing to, like you said, I have to do this, but I chose, like almost like it was a negative thing
Yeah,
to do.
exactly.
But in the end of the day, health is important, right? Your well-being is important.
Yeah.
So if you don't schedule that, or if you look at it as it's not being productive, then
Yeah.
you kind of work against yourself.
Exactly. You have to take the long view with your goals because it's not just you work, and then you're happy. Like almost never works that way. What's the phrase, like smell the flowers or the roses along the way? You have to build that in a little bit. Actually, I also schedule some of my entertainment. I say like, oh, from this time I'm gonna watch TV. Or I'm a big Rockets fan, NBA basketball. And so if they're playing, I literally have it on my calendar. I'm like, I'm probably not gonna be doing my most intense work because I'll probably have the TV on in the background while I'm on my laptop or something. So you have to find little ways to like make time for life. It's not just your goals. They need to go hand in hand.
Can I say something like that just quickly?
Mhm.
I've also adapted this rule at some point because I'm also a highly driven person with so many projects on my plate. Is one of those approaches when, people who buy a lot of clothes sometimes say, okay, I don't buy anything unless I donate something.
Mhm.
So I approach this.
That's me with books.
Oh, yes,
I have so many books I haven't read.
So I started to approach my project, so what I'm saying, yes, in the same manner. I'm like, okay, if something goes in, something has to go out
Mhm.
from this plate.
Yeah.
Like, what can I give up, or what's gonna go out of the plate before I commit to the next thing?
Yeah.
If there's nothing that can leave the plate, then I cannot just say yes to the new thing yet.
Yeah. That's a great point. There's a great book that actually covers this to some degree. I forget the title of it. I'll search it afterwards, but I think it's called like 4,000 Weeks or something. Has anyone heard of that book?
4,000 hours, I think.
4,000 hours?
Or 10,000 hours, like to accomplish a skill, or,
No, she knows.
Like orange cover, like in the beach.
I think so. I listened to the audio book. It's not about the becoming a master at something. It's about how much time we have in our lives. And they did the math. The average lifespan, I think it's like around 4,000 weeks, which is really weird because like we can count 4,000, and we're like, that's your entire life from beginning to end.
Is it 4-hour work week? Or
No. What is
Oh, yeah, it is for the.
it is 4,000.
4,000?
Our life is 4,000 weeks.
80 years.
4,000 weeks?
Over.
Yeah, 4,000 weeks time management for mortals.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's approximately 76 years. So that.
Yeah. It's based in actual statistics. And one of the concepts the author talks about in that book is your to-do list is never going to end. There's always going to be more to do. And that's where prioritization comes in. Figuring out what do you actually want to work on? What needs to get done? Great book recommendation. Oh, sorry, were you taking a picture?
No, taking a picture of you, actually.
Oh, thank you. Of course. Let me just pose real quick. So now the other side of that is micro-prioritization. And this is more in the context of your actual goal, right? What are you focusing your time on? This is assuming you've already looked at your life from the macro perspective and you made time for like, okay, on Tuesday nights at 6 to 8, I'm going to work on this project or this goal. So the core concept here is that not all tasks are created equal, right? There's a big difference between being busy and being productive. Does anyone know what that difference is?
Yeah, I mean, you could work a whole week and not be productive with anything, not have any results.
I think it's like whether you're moving closer to your goals or not.
Exactly. I think both of you are right.
Like updating your 10 packages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's busy work. It sort of needs to get done, but it doesn't actually help you get closer to launching that feature or getting something out the door. All of this, productiveness is contextual. It's based on what your goal is. So, for example, I think if you've been in college, you've lived through this. I did, at least. I was a master procrastinator. And whenever I had like an essay due or a major exam, I was the expert at cramming at the last second. I would wait till the last day to study. I don't know why I kept doing this to myself. I would pull all-nighters, but I was really good at it. Now I think I would probably just die if I pulled an all-nighter at this point. But I was really good at just waiting till the very last second to actually do the work. And then I would remember it for about an hour, and then I'd take the test and I'd forget about it. Or an essay, I'd write it overnight, 5-6 pages. And the issue was that I wasn't being productive up until that time, but I was very busy. So I would come home from school or work or wherever, like probably around 5. Like, okay, let me eat dinner. So I'd have dinner for about an hour. My favorite TV show's on, so let me watch that for another hour. Okay, now I'm ready. I need to go do some work. Okay, so I go to my room. I'm ready to start working. I got my computer there, and I have everything ready to go. I'm like, well, the room is a little bit dirty. So let me tidy up a little bit. I can't really think if it's so cluttered in here. But while I'm doing that, I might as well just take out the trash and vacuum a little bit, and these books need to be reorganized too. And then before you know, it's been 3 hours, and I have not actually worked on the essay that I was supposed to write. And I did this all the time. I would get into this thing of like, well, let me just be more productive by cleaning up first. And that was, cleaning up is not a bad thing. It's actually really healthy. It's a good thing to do. But my goal was to write this essay and get it done with. But so in that context, it wasn't productive at all. It was just busy work. And so when we say not all tasks are created equal, it doesn't mean that they're not important, that they're bad. It's not like you're just eating chips and watching TV. It means that it's not actually moving the needle. That's where, again, with your goals, it's very important to find out what is actually important and focus on those things. So we're going to take a few minutes here, and we're going to write down as many tasks as you can to get you closer to whatever your goal is, right? Big or small, take a few minutes and try to write down everything you can think of, right? If you're launching a business, maybe you have to come up with a name, you have to find a logo, register for an entity, do product research. Everyone have 5 to 10 at least? Okay, cool. Another point to that is the more tasks you have, the more overwhelming it can seem, especially because our time is limited. Very rarely do we have 24 hours a day to focus on this one thing. Again, that's where the macro prioritization is important. So you can see you don't actually have that much time. It has to fit in properly. So some useful techniques for micro prioritization. The same thing we talked about previously, the Eisenhower matrix, that actually applies really well here as well. Putting in that quadrant in terms of importance and urgency, that can work across different types of tasks and also within the same goal, same objective. You can break it down in there as well. This is one I actually use when I'm not quite sure what I need to focus on. This is a great way to visualize it for me. I'm like, yeah, I should probably focus on these set of tasks over here. The other one, you guys have probably heard of this, the Pareto principle. Everyone should have heard of this probably, the 80-20 rule. It's a small visual here. Basically, the Pareto principle just says that 20% of the actions result in 80% of the results. Apparently, it's a universal principle that some Italian economists noticed like hundreds of years ago. And they've done more research and they found like they see a consistent pattern apply in other areas. And so the original study was that 20% of landowners in ancient Italy owned 80% of the wealth. And now it's actually that number is skewed even further. Like 1% own 99. But in different areas, the same concept applies. 80% of the things that you do provide 80% of the value. And so looking at the list that you guys just wrote down, all the different things you can do, I want you guys to go through real quick and circle the ones that you think are the most important. What does that 20% look like? Because not everything can be equally important. Some of those things are make or break to get you towards your goal. Like for me, when I was writing down some of the tasks I had, it was research. And for mine is like starting a business or a newsletter. I'd have to do research, see what platforms are available for newsletters, research competitors, brainstorm content. Not all of those are 100% necessary. Not to say that they're not important, but some other things need to happen that will make or break me succeeding this goal. It's a little tricky, right? It's hard to pick because like you wrote it down, so it must be important. That's what priority is all about. You have to pick and choose. You can't do everything, or definitely not at the same time.
It's almost like I'm reapplying the same filters. Like I've chosen a few that I think like make up 20%. Okay, like within this 20, what is another 20 to kind of narrow it down and even further. So it's not a few, it's maybe just two.
Yeah. It's tough because you could go on indefinitely doing this. And sometimes you want to mix and match different tools together. The Eisenhower matrix, great for visualizing. And then from there, you can be like, okay, what's the 20% most important from this, right?
Yeah.
So.
It feels like tasks aren't parallel, but they're like stepping stones.
Like sequential.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then you've identified right there that you obviously need to start somewhere. You need to start at this point. But I think it's good that you're seeing like maybe what the end result of that might be. Or you're seeing like, oh, this task needs to be done last. Or I need to do these tasks first. So it's important. And that, again, this is something that you have to be kind of fluid with as you're looking at your tasks. You decide what's important. Right? You look at your goal and you say, this is my goal, this is my objective. Does this task actually move me closer to this? Right? Because I know I struggle with this. I get stuck in research hell or analysis paralysis all the time. I'm like, okay, well, let me just do some research on what other people are doing. And then 3 hours later, I haven't done anything. Like, I could have just tried it out. I could have just picked the first option that seemed viable and ran with it. So again, you should do some research. Yep, question?
It reminds me, eat that frog.
Yeah, eat that frog. Does anyone else know what that is? It's the concept of doing the most difficult thing first so that you don't put it off later, because we put it off.
You can find other in YouTube.
Yeah. I think the author's name is Brian Tracy.
Yes.
Yeah, so he has a great book, Eat That Frog. That's a good one. It basically talks about doing the hardest thing first But I think it also applies to doing the most important thing, because typically they're related.
And that motivates you because you add that from you complete the hardest task.
Exactly.
And it motivates you to keep doing it.
Exactly.
In project management, we refer to it a little bit differently. We speak about minimum viable product. So you do the minimum of your task or of your product that you can, that is going to allow for it to be usable. So like if you were building a car, you need tires, you need something to steer, and you need something to sit on. But you don't necessarily need windows, windshields, roof, and lights, right? And then you start with that minimum viable product, and then you build on to it with time, right?
Sure.
So it depends really on what type of a task you're working on. Sometimes doing the hardest part is first, but sometimes doing the minimum or the easiest part, the basics, is the easiest.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because there's no right way to do it. Everyone has their own preference. If you find that it's better to start off with something very small just to build momentum, that's good too. At different phases, depending on my headspace, I've done both approaches. Sometimes if I'm in like a really good mindset, I'll do the hardest thing first because I know I can take it. If I'm really busy with work and I don't have much time for my project, I'm like, what's the smallest thing I can do, right? So,
As you say, we are not machines. Sometimes we are not in the mood. I know.
Yeah.
Don't wait to feel it or something. I know it's so like good sentence to hear, but we are human beings.
Exactly.
Sometimes we will be down, even if we are taking step further. It is good.
No, definitely. I agree with that 100%. I believe in momentum more than anything else, consistency, right? If you can do even a little bit every day, that's better than waiting till the end of the week or end of the month to cram like I did for all my tests and essays. Awesome. So let's move forward. So at this point, what we've done is we've gone through, we've listed all the tasks we can do right now for our goals. And we even identified what are the most valuable ones, which ones actually help us get closer to our goal. So now we're going to move into tracking your progress, which is also very important. And I know for time, I think it's 7:30 now, so let me know. I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Tracking your progress, very important. There's a famous quote from a business consultant. He says, Peter Drucker, he says, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. I'm definitely the type of person that overtracks stuff. So I know there's also people on the other end of the spectrum that don't want to track anything. They think it takes out the spontaneity from working on stuff that you're excited about. But the truth is that if you're not measuring it in one way or the other, how do you know you're actually getting better? I think you can't really rely on our feelings for that. We need to have some sort of objective measure, especially if it's goal related. So another metaphor I like to think of goals tracking as is like it's your GPS, right? If you're on a road trip and you have a destination, how do you know if you've gotten any closer if you don't have a map or GPS? Like you don't know if you're on the right path. You might have taken a wrong turn. Maybe you missed the exit you're supposed to take. The entire point of tracking your progress is so that you can make adjustments. Typically, our goals are not 1 week goals, right? That's not really a goal. Mostly they're a few months or weeks or even years out. And for those, especially when life happens, we're not going to stay on track. Things are going to pop up in our lives that distract us or sidetrack us. And the entire thing is that you have something that can bring you back. Say, hey, this is not actually helping. It's not working what I'm doing right now. I need to make an adjustment. So question for you guys, like how the goals that you guys have written down, what is the time span on those? How far out? Is that a year out, a month? Just want to hear, just yell it out.
You mean the goal that we work
Yeah. How far out are you guys planning for these goals?
6 months.
6 months, okay.
1 month.
1 month, okay. So 6 months, 1 month, a year. What was that?
4 months.
4 months. Yeah. So what were you doing 4 months ago? Do you remember?
Still planning.
Coming to your meetings.
There you go. Well, not this meeting, but the point is that we don't really we're not quite the same people we were 6 months ago, a year ago. Things change. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's really obvious. We had a major life event. When we are working towards a goal, things can change all the time. And your mindset can change. Maybe you get demotivated. You're like, what's the point of doing this goal? It doesn't make sense anymore. I've done that. Sometimes you realize, oh, this is all wrong. I need to focus on this other thing over here. Having something to show you whether you're actually making progress, getting closer to your goal is very, very important. Because without that, you're just sort of hoping it works out, which, spoiler alert, it almost never does. I know from experience. So we talked about this a little bit in the last meeting. Your goal should be SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And in terms of tracking your progress, the things I think are most important there are making sure your goals are hyper-specific and very measurable. I read somewhere a good example of it is that an 8-year-old should be able to read what your goal statement is, and it's so specific that they can tell you if you're making progress or not. They should be able to tell whether you're actually on track for your goal. That's how specific it should be. So we're going to take another minute here, and we're going to write down all the ways that you think you can track progress towards your goal, right? And this is meant to be more of an abstract. Like, what can you do? Think about what your goal is. What indicates that you're making progress? And just write down, it could just be the first thing that comes to mind. What are all the ways that you can track whether you're on the right path? For some things, it's really easy. For other things, you're like, I don't know. It's easier the more specific and measurable your goal is, I'll tell you that. So if your goal is vague, if you're struggling here, that's a sign your goal may be too vague. You don't really know what you're actually looking for. All right, I think I see enough pens down. So we'll circle back to that here in a second about the ways you can actually track your goals. But first, we're going to talk about reflecting on your goals. That's going to be the key. If you're not checking in on your goals every now and then, again, none of this is going to work. You have to adjust constantly. You have to course correct. So you have to be able to reflect on whether you're making progress. So what I do is I have a weekly ritual where I go and I sit down. I do this on typically Sunday evenings, because that, for me, Sunday is the end of the week, and I like to start Monday fresh, knowing where I went right and where I went wrong in the previous week. So what I do is I make time every week to sit down for at least 1 hour, and I go through what I did that week. Did it go well? Did it not go well? And actually, who here is familiar with the concept of a retrospective? Everyone knows that? Cool. So this is, there's a common template to retrospective, which is you break things into 3 categories, which is what went well, to improve, and action items. And so I started doing this for work, and I realized this actually works really well for my personal goals as well. Like, why would I switch it up? So all you do is that week you write down what went well, where areas that you need to improve in, and then from those areas to improve in, you write down things that you would do different, which are the action items. So I do this for all of my goals. I do it all in one big list. I don't separate it all out. But it makes it really easy for me to see how I'm doing And it actually doesn't take too long. It's within probably around 15, 20 minutes, I can get through this. And if you can end up with maybe 2 or 3 different action items that week, you don't want to have too many. If you have too many, then you're not going to do any of them. That's the unfortunate reality of it. But I try to pick the most important ones. I try to pick the maybe 2 or 3 top action items that were really hurting me towards my goal progress the previous week, and I really try to make that a focus for the next week. So it's something that's worked really well for me. And again, it's a very iterative, constantly changing process. So this helps me sort of see the lay of the land and make adjustments as needed. Any questions on that? Everyone's probably done this before, I'm guessing. Cool. All right, so now we're going to circle back to our metrics, specifically how to pick the right thing to track, right? We have a list, and we'll go over that here in a second. But first, again, I'm not sure if this is something that's like a common thought, but this is just how I naturally see my goals. I break them into 2 main categories. It's either an achievement goal or a habit-based goal, right? Like, for example, I have multiple goals. One of my goals I mentioned was to launch this newsletter. That's more of an achievement, to get it out there. Like, I can say like very clearly, like, I've crossed this finish line. But I have other goals that are habit-based. Like, I want to fix my sleep. I want to improve my sleep. I don't think there's really a point where I'd be like, yep, I fixed my sleep, now I'll never have to focus on that again. It's a constant cycle. So I'm curious to hear thoughts from you guys. Do you guys have goals in those categories, or do you see something different?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think it's important to make this distinction, because I made this mistake where I would just lump all my goals together as like, these are all just goals. And I would actually categorize them differently, like, oh, these are health goals, these are business goals, these are career growth, this is relationship goals. Like, I realized those categories didn't actually do anything for me. Like, it actually meant nothing at all. It was just, it felt good to be like, oh, look, I put them in these nice color-coded categories. I think the important one is achievement or habit. And the thing is, this is my personal belief, you can only have one significant achievement goal at a time that you can focus your time on. Habit goals, you can have more, but achievement goals, I don't think you can have more than one. I've tried many times to do this. Last quarter, I set quarterly goals. I tried to launch an app at the same time as focus on this newsletter that I'm trying to do. I could not do it, because again, I have all these other silent, invisible commitments like work. That's so silly, right? Work. But it means that I don't have the time and energy to dedicate to multiple achievement goals. Achievement goals require more mental effort, in my opinion, versus habit-based goals. They also require some energy, but it's not quite the same. And we'll talk about that here. So based on the type of goal you have, I think you have to take that into consideration when you try to figure out how to track it. Because you don't want to track your habit-based goals necessarily the same way you're tracking your achievement-based goals. So one, if you have an achievement-based goal, I think what works best is milestone-based tracking, right? You break down this big goal where it has a finish line. Maybe you want to run a marathon, or maybe you're trying to launch a business, or I don't know, make a trip to some place. I think it's important to break it down into smaller milestones and use that. Like, if we think about how you know you're actually making progress, that would show you if you're on the right path. And then for your habit-based goals, I think what works best is more of performance metric tracking. And this is where if you're more like numbers-based, this is gonna be better for you. But I actually prefer this. And I think it gives you a more granular look at whether your actions are headed in the right direction. And I'll give you guys an example here. So some useful ways you could do this is, like, obviously anyone can use pen and paper. It's not, you don't have to use like some super cool app to do any of this stuff. You could literally write down what your goal is and break it down into small milestones on one piece of paper and pin it to your wall. And that, for some people, they swear by that. It could also be a digital version of pen and paper, right? It could be, I use Obsidian. It's a markdown note-taking app. Some people use Apple Notes or whatever works for them. Funny enough, I use Google Sheets. I love Google Sheets. It's free and it does what I need. It's
Portable.
it's portable. It works everywhere. Super easy. I can color code it, and I'll show you guys actually an example of this. I love Google Sheets. If I could get paid for sponsoring them, I'd be a millionaire. And then another one that I've used in the past is Trello, or any Kanban apps. Trello is my favorite. It's free. There's a theme here. I like free stuff. And Trello works really well because you can sort of customize your list however you want. They've added a lot more offerings to the free tool. So like if you haven't tried it, check it out. Yeah, I wouldn't pay for the premium membership. Don't tell them I told you that. So take a second here and try to think about the goal that you've written down. What type of goal is it? And what's the best way to track it? To give you an example, this is my sleep for the last quarter. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a habit for me. Sleep is not some sort of singular accomplishment. It's something that I want to constantly get to like a certain level. And so for me, I tracked all these things, and this is probably overkill, but for transparency, I'm showing you guys what I did. This is how I use my Google Sheets. I color coded it. For me, it makes sense. I tracked my sleep quality, how long I slept, what time I even had dinner. I would just make a quick note. I'm like, oh, I had dinner around this time. What time I went to bed, what time I woke up. Did I go to bed early? Sometimes I would like be good and I'd go to sleep early. Other times I wouldn't, and I'd go to sleep like 2 or 3 in the morning. Did I wake up on time? All these things were indicators of whether I was actually meeting the goal I'd set out to achieve in the first place. And so again, this is probably overkill. You don't want to track everything, but you have to consider what is actually important. What metrics are actually indicating success for your goal? And so this is habit-based goal. And so there wasn't really a milestone for that I saw. Now you can mix and match. I think it's not one or the other. If you have an achievement-based goal, you definitely want to break it into milestones. But it doesn't mean that you can't use metrics to track and see what needs to be adjusted. But this works especially well when you have habits and you want to see whether it's actually moving the needle. All right, my favorite section now, accountability. So, accountability. I love this movie, and this is the first thing that comes to mind. Has anyone seen Planet of the Apes? No? This is Caesar. He's the smartest ape. He's the leader of the pack. And in this movie, chimpanzees have become sentient because of some Alzheimer's drug or something. And now they're super smart, and also they're stronger than us, and so they're angry at humans, and humans are fighting them. Anyways, this guy escapes, and they're in their own little sanctuary, and he's trying to convince the other apes to work together. And so he says, apes together strong, apart weak. Actually, the meme cut out over here. But that's sort of, for me, encapsulates what accountability is all about. Ultimately, it's to create systems that will keep you on track. That's the purpose of accountability. But we have a lot of built-in, software or wiring in our brains through natural selection and evolution that make us social creatures. We want other people's approval. We want to fit in as part of a group. And so these are really powerful tools to help you be more likely to actually follow through on your goals. So the issue that I've faced in the past is when you're working alone on your goal, when there's no one there to see your progress or see if you're doing well, there's little to no accountability. And guess what? Oh, you missed one deadline. It's not the end of the world, man. Just yeah, who cares? I'll get it next week. And then it happens again, and you say the same thing. You're like, oh, I had a rough week, you know. And then you do it again, and before you know, it's been a month, 2 months since you actually made any meaningful progress. And it sounds funny, but our brains work this way. We like to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, and we're not good at vocalizing specific issues that we're running into. And we're built for social connection. Whoops, I skipped a slide. We're built for social connection, and that's where someone else can come in and point out these areas where we're falling short, right? Accountability is for us to sort of see our blind spots and get progress towards the goals that we've committed to already. So there is this common misconception that accountability, I'll say accountability is not about telling everyone your goals. It's about being held accountable for your commitments, right? If I tell you guys, hey, my goal is to get better sleep, like that's not going to change a single thing.
I'll ask you tomorrow.
Well, she might. That's accountability. But if I,
You at 6 a.m.
oh, please don't. It'll be on. It'll be on Do Not Disturb. Actually, so that's a funny story. When I was really serious about fixing my sleep a few years back, I had a friend who said he was going to do that. He was going to call me at 6 in the morning, actually. And what happened was, I was so excited and so worried, actually. I was like, oh my, if I don't,
Sleep well.
I, I woke up at 5. Naturally, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to miss this call. Then he's going to think I'm a loser. I can't even, it's day 1 and I can't even make it past that. And that's exactly what accountability does. It creates this pressure. You don't want to make yourself look bad in front of someone that you respect. And so I didn't want to stay up all night. I mean, I fell asleep, but I woke up early because this pressure, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna look like such an idiot if I don't wake up. And that's the power. It's built into us. We need to work with that to take advantage of it instead of thinking, oh, we need to work alone. No one really understands what we're doing. That's a trap. You're going to fail most likely if there's not at least one person that can point out your flaws or get you back on track, give you some advice. That's what Devlin was talking about out there. He's the president of Improving Houston. Actually, I don't even know what his official title is anymore, but
He's the president.
president. He does something here. I don't know. Assistant.
He is a Houston Enterprise president, but I think he's also a president for Improving in general.
He's the chief consulting officer too, and assistant janitor or something
Yes.
like that.
In training.
In training. But he talked about it like people that are going to hold you accountable are going to tell you things sometimes that you don't want to hear. And that's actually a sign of a good accountability partner. If it's always friendly, if they're too afraid to give you bad news or harsh criticism or advice, it's probably not a good partnership. So picking the right people to hold you accountable, that's the key. If you pick the wrong person, you're just wasting your time. And trust me, I've done that. So the right accountability partner, in my opinion, boils down to 2 things: mutual respect and mutual trust. I mean, it sounds really cliche, but think about it. If you didn't respect me and I said, hey, you need to get your shit together, you're not going to care what I said. Who are you? Like, who are you to tell me? And it's not a conscious thought. It's more of a subconscious thing. If your boss comes in there, if Devlin came in here and he's like, hey, you really need to work harder, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to work harder. Or think about that person you really respect. It might be someone that's in your field that's a few years ahead of you, or someone that's really accomplished. Their words are going to hold more weight than just some random guy off the street. And same thing for trust. Trust is very important when it comes to having an accountability partner, because you have to know that they're actually trying to help you. Right? It can't just be some stranger off the street. Someone has to know you to some degree. There has to be some common bond where you want to help them and they want to help you. If that doesn't exist, that criticism that you need to hear is not going to come across well. You're going to be like, well, who the hell are you to tell me that? Like, I don't care for your tone, right? Someone that you trust deeply can say things to you in a way that someone else may not be able to. I think we can all think of at least one person that's told us something we didn't want to hear, and we're like, yeah, they're right.
But also you have to trust the person that they will not either make fun of you or go and tell others.
Exactly. That's what trust is all about. Mutual trust. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what Aldair just said to me in our accountability meeting. Oh my God, I'm going to post this on Facebook or wherever, right? I mean, that also goes into respect, but it needs to be mutual, and it needs to be at a decent level, right? You're not going to be able to pick, don't need to have 100% respect and trust. And very few relationships are like that. Otherwise, you'll always be searching for an accountability partner. But it needs to be at a level where you both feel secure to, one, share your vulnerabilities, right? Our goals are often very personal. And if you're too afraid to bring up those areas that you're uncomfortable with your accountability partner, then where else can you do that, right? Also, I want to point out, this person may not be your best friend. Sometimes those people cannot help you. I love my mom, but I cannot have her be my accountability partner. I have best friends that just will not understand what I'm trying to do. Actually, I was talking to someone that is starting their own business. They're working for themselves. And they were telling me they can't talk about the things we talk about with their other friend group because they're all working really stable jobs, and this sounds like a foreign concept to them. It's not about how close you are to these people. Respect and trust doesn't mean you're necessarily best friends. Important distinction. Also, there's this concept of accountability groups. Has anyone ever been in an accountability group before? Well, this is sort of an accountability group, sort of. So I've been in a few, and what I've realized is less is more. I've been in a group where there was 5 or 6 people, and guess what? None of us did anything. We met up once a week on Friday evenings, just on a call, and we talk about all the things we're going to do the next week. And then next week comes around like, hey, what'd you do? It's like, yeah, I didn't get a chance to work on it, so maybe next week. And we did this until I was like, guys, none of us have made progress. We've actually gone backwards. And so what was happening there, I realize now, was the bystander effect, which is if there's too many people involved in something, no one's going to take personal responsibility. What you need is someone that takes some sort of responsibility for keeping you on track. If you're in a group of 5 people, everyone's going to be like, well, I know Aldero will do it, or Agnes will do it. And then what happens is they both think the same thing, and no one is actually keeping me accountable. No one is actually going to check in and make sure that I'm actually doing the thing that I committed to. So personally, I think the sweet spot is 1 to 2 people. Keep your circle small, build it on respect and trust, and try not to let that group get too large. Now, it doesn't mean you can't talk about your goals to a larger group, but when it comes down to actually being accountable, that person needs to be willing to do the work too, right? Accountability is a commitment. If I ask you to be my accountability partner, like that's not just like, oh, I can do that easily. Like you need to be checking in, right? Because now you're accepting some responsibility for this person's goal, and vice versa. It should go both ways. So don't think it's like, hey, let's just all get on a group call once a week on Fridays and we're all going to achieve our goals. It never happens, in my experience at least. And so the last action is, who can keep you accountable? Can you schedule regular time to discuss your goals? So just list out, think through your personal Rolodex. Who stands out to you that's high in respect, high in trust? They may not necessarily be your best friend, but could you reach out to this person today and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. I need your help. Can you keep me accountable? Who is that person? Or maybe you don't have that person in your life, and that's fine too. All right, with that, I think we're done. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Well, any questions? I gave plenty of time for questions anyway, so thank you guys. Appreciate it.